that same minister came up and said, John, I don't know if you even have a dog, but I think your dog was between you and evil, but it's over with now. Hey everyone, this is Padre John, or the Ravens Wings, depending on where you get your social media. As an ordained priest, I have lots of people involved in my life, and I often have people asking me questions about what is life like as a priest and a spiritual person. And recently got the question of, have I ever seen a spiritual being? I think the intention of the question was, have I ever seen an angel, a demon, a devil, God, those kind of spiritual entities? Though I do first have to point out that I very much believe that every human being is a spiritual being, having a human reality for a little while. So in that sense, we encounter spiritual beings every day. Just some people haven't remembered it to turn it on. So as far as, have I ever seen angels, demons, God, or the devil? Not in the literal sense. I've definitely been in positions where intuitively you can feel the presence of all of those. I've definitely been in the presence of profound evil. I've been in the presence of minor evil. I've been in the presence of the divine and the divine's messengers. I can feel it, I can sense it. For me, spirituality, when something spiritual is happening, something happens in my chest. I can feel it. And a lot of times I'll get that feeling and I'll stop and look around because I think it's a warning or an alert to be who I am. And part of who I am is I've acknowledged my gifts. I've acknowledged that God has put me here for purposes. And I think one of those purposes is to be a source of unconditional love and compassion to people, particularly those that are on the less than these segment of the world. I do, however, also believe, and I've encountered people who I believe are channeling spirits. And there is such thing as angelic possession as well as demonic possession. We all hear about demonic possession all the time, but we don't hear about angelic possession very frequently. But I think both of those happen. I've encountered both, and sometimes you're around somebody and you can just feel it. They say something, and you can see that it's not them behind their eyes. That something else is in control. And I've been in Guatemala doing mission work where something tragic was happening, and I've seen somebody just completely taken over, rushing out to do something that's completely out of their nature, to stop evil from happening. And I believe that that's probably some kind of angelic possession, or somebody hearing very clearly a message from the divine. And that's the other side of it is my encounters with the divine are usually in dreams. And so I've faced God, I've confronted God many, many times in life. And some people go, oh my gosh, you confronted God, that's a sin. No, I think God appreciates us confronting him or it. God is created male and female, therefore he is neither male nor female. Even though I use the word term he because that's how I grew up. But God is God, and I try to say God's self. But anyway, I've definitely confronted God many times, and I think God respects when we have reasonable confrontations, reasonable questions. And I remember one of my very first questions that I felt like I had a divine encounter was a dream, and I've talked about this before with some people. When I was a little kid, my grandmother had said, um, eat all your food because there are people somewhere in the world starving. And I confronted God in my dreams that night and said, why aren't you giving food to people? And God responded. And I had other times where I was 16 years old, circling the toilet with drug addiction, and I distinctly heard the voice of God. And I stopped because God told me to, doing drugs. Cold turkey. Haven't abused drugs since October 25th, 1980. That's a long time. Is that 46 years? Holy shit, 46 years clean. Anyway, um, so yeah, and the same thing, I've encountered people where there was definitely something not right going on. I had this one lady I was working with in Baltimore who came in and she was terrified, and she was like, "Oh, there's something inside me, and it makes me say terrible things." And I asked the basic questions: have you ever been diagnosed with Tourette's? Have you ever been mental health issues? And she was all reasonably clean with all of that stuff, and uh, outside of the normal stressors in life, she was a pretty normal person. And then suddenly, while I was talking to her, she had this really deep animalistic laugh, almost kind of a growly laugh. And then her right eye just started shooting all around in different directions while her left eye stayed completely focused on me. And you could feel it in the air. There was like almost a taste of lead, hot lead in the air. Scared the shit out of me. And then it suddenly passed, and she was like, "Oh my gosh, what just happened?" And so I told her what happened, and she says that's what happened. And I laid hands and prayed on her. It didn't go away. Um, I've also had dreams about demons attacking me most of my life, fighting demons of all sorts. I had one incident. Um, I was working in Baltimore, and this was probably like around 2010 or 11. And I came into the office after having dreams of battling this demon in my dreams. And a next minister who was coming to our church for help came to me and said, "John, I need to see you right now." And I was like, "No, I have appointments." He said, "No, I need to see you right now." And I was like, "Okay, come on in." And he said, "I don't know what's going on, but you're battling a demon right now, and you're going to win, but you don't feel like you're going to win, but you're going to win." And this went on and on for 4 or 5 weeks. And it ended. My dog in my house was freaking out. She was the calmest dog in the world, but she was sitting there with her hackles up, teeth bared, growling into our guest room for a couple days. And then suddenly she whelped and ran to the basement. She left a pile of pee and poop upstairs, which she never did. And I'd been battling this demon. And that night I had the battle with the dream, and I was battling the demon in a dream, and he was laughing at me, and he went like this at me, and something went into my right eye, and it hurt, and I saw like a sparkle of light. And when that was done and over with, I he left, and that demon never came back so far. But when I woke up in the morning, my ex-wife screamed because I had crusted blood running down my face, coming down out of my right eye. Nothing wrong with my eye. There was just blood running down my face. And then I went into the Samaritan community again, and that same minister came up and said, um, "John, I don't know if you even have a dog, but I think your dog was between you and evil, but it's over with now." And that's just where this is a weird synchronicity. Something's going on. Somebody of faith is basically, you know, channeling and understanding. I don't want to say prophesying, but understanding premonitions about what's happening with me. And that's where I do believe that there is all this spiritual action, where there are these spiritual energies. And I think some of those spiritual energies can become embodied from time to time. I don't know exactly what it looks like. I've never really encountered it that I know. But I've definitely seen people that I thought were channeling or possessed. Um, and yeah, so yeah. The most important thing is we are spiritual entities, and we need to remember that. And um, whenever it comes to evil, I always remember I have what I call the nuclear option. Uh, Jesus' promise: call upon Jesus, and he'll come. So, I ever deal too much with a demon, I just call upon Jesus and the divine and the Holy Spirit to come and battle with me. And yeah, so a lot of my life has ended up being different levels of spiritual warfare, different understandings of spiritual warfare. But hope that answers the question about have I ever encountered a spiritual being. And as always, peace, blessings, and in all things, courage, my friends.